Hey up guys, welcome to the only podcast by a blind wrestling fan. This is Wrestling in the Dark and it's time for the NXT vs AEW Super Review. We've got a pair of multi-man main events this week, as on NXT a triple threat match between Tomasso Ciampa, Keith Lee and Finn Balor will decide the number one contender for Adam Cole's NXT Championship, and on Dynamite the Young Bucks take on Proud and Powerful in a Texas street fight. So if you want to know what they were like for someone who can't see it all, chill out, have fun, and we'll take a look at this week's wrestling. And what show will we be starting with this week?
Tails.
We'll be starting with AEW this week. I've got to say I enjoyed the opening to Dynamite this week, but you can't really go wrong when you open with Jon Moxley. He comes out against John Silver, and honestly, it was a squash match. He just paradigm shifts that jobber into the abyss, and then they move on with the storyline, which is Chris Jericho and the Inner Circle coming out and saying, hey, I'll just get it straight in my head now. Jericho basically talks about the fact that when he first burst onto the scene, when Moxley first burst onto the scene, he came to Jericho and asked him for advice, asked him how to get over. They became adversaries, they beat the shit out of each other. Ambrose dumped him into tax, he destroyed his property, and then Jericho hit him with a £50 bit of crockery. I was going to say property again. A £50 bit of crockery. He says that you're only just starting to harness the power within yourself. When you needed to reinvent again, you came to AEW and asked me for help again. I brought you here, and how do you repay me? By laying me out at the end of Double or Nothing. But that was fine, because it showed me you still had a chip on your shoulder. I want to ask you to join the Inner Circle. Imagine what the Inner Circle would be like with the addition of you. But he tells him that he's not to give the answer now, because he needs to think on it, and just isn't ready for an answer from him. I just thought that this was pretty awesome. I like how when Jericho first came in, he's like, hey, if we were going to ambush you, we'd have done it already, so just chill out. And like telling him to not be so confrontational. I just think that this Jericho is one of my favourite Jerichos that I've seen. And the fact that he's just going around and trying to bolster the Inner Circle and keep this buffer around himself, and he knows that Moxley is the most dangerous man to his title reign. Honestly, in fact, when these two face each other, I just don't know what's going to happen. And I do like that, because it just shows that Dynamite's managing to be unpredictable, because as much as I feel like Jericho might just win and then his reign carries on and the, shift to him and Kenny or something like that, I also really don't know, and I could see Moxley being the one to beat him, because I don't really know. With how they've built up Moxley right now, I don't know who else would beat him if Jericho manages to pull this off, especially if he manages to pull it off clean, without any interference, which got me thinking I'd really, really like to see these two in a cage match. Now, that sort of fit in with the sort of let's redo our WWE rivalry, but do it right this time sort of thing. So they haven't really done anything that big yet. With that sort of stipulation, it'd be huge. They'd get some eyes on them for it, and to be honest, it would just be a great match. Who wouldn't want to see just a old school beat down brawl inside a cage with them two just raking each other across the cage and all that sort of stuff? I could see them maybe putting some barbed wire on the top to keep the Inner Circle out and keep them two in, so the only way you can get out is through pinfall, submission, or the door, or death, because let's face it, that seems like it's a possibility in Moxley matches. But yeah, I really enjoyed this, just Moxley coming out, laying out a jobber, and then just swiftly move on to this Inner Circle shenanigans sort of stuff, and it leaves it with the question, will Moxley join the Inner Circle? No is the answer, probably, but at the same time, I could be completely wrong, and Moxley could come out like next week or in Jacksonville and just be like, yeah, I'm joining the Inner Circle, but I really can't see it. Over on NXT, we open up in an equally awesome way. It's an NXT Cruiserweight title match between Lio Rush and Angel Garza. This one's been building for a little while now. Garza's been playing mind games, bringing Leo's family into this, and that really played into this match. So Lio Rush was showing a super aggressive side in this match, although, let's be honest, it didn't really do him that much good, but I do like the fact that that was sort of explained via the storyline. He comes out of the gate really hot before the title announcement introduction has even begun. Or not begun, sorry, they start it, I think, and then Leo just, comes out of the gate and starts, and then they ring the bell. And he just shows the super aggressive side, and Nigel talks about how that isn't his wheelhouse, it's not his usual game, and says that he should maybe stick to the speed and agility in the aerial offense that he usually does, and the fact that he didn't really cost him in this match because Angel Garza did end up picking up the win. One of the things that made me really happy was that Morrow seemed to be back to his old self. He really seems to have shaken off this Corey Graves thing, and I'm glad that he has. I don't want it lingering around in his head and making him feel like he's not a good commentator, because honestly he is. He's one of the best, and I just was really glad to see him back to his old self, and he did really well with this match, with keeping me up to date with the spots. I've got all sorts of notes, but the sort of main highlights of this, we've got quite a few little things in terms of, there was quite a lot of slaps in this match. They were both just slapping each other because they don't respect each other. In fact, there was one bit where there was like a rapid fire slap exchange. I thought it was going to be chops, but it ended up being slaps, and it was just like, and it just really made me laugh. They were both using each other's moves on the other, because Garza got the come up, which I'm not particularly sure what that is, but Nigel put it over as a move that Leo usually does. But Leo managed to hit his own come up later on, reversing the electric chair and doing it. Again, I'm not particularly sure what it is. We got a avalanche Spanish fly from Angel Garza at one point, and I've got to say shout out to Diddly Doodler on Twitter, because he answered the WITD challenge and explained what a Spanish fly is. He says that it's a rock bottom uranagi sort of position, and the person giving the move does a backflip, forcing the person taking the move to do a front flip. So I really appreciate that. A nice, clear description of what the move is, and now I know, so thank you very much, because I completely had it wrong with what I thought it was. I don't know how to describe what I thought it was, but it definitely wasn't that. In fact, what I thought it was probably some sort of Hurricanrana variant that I'll end up finding out. Anyway, shout out to you, Diddley, I really appreciate that. Leo hit his face on the apron at one point. Nigel really put over the fact that the impact was really to the jaw. We got a step up enziguri from Garza at some point, and Beth put over how impactful that was. Leo hit the wing clipper on Garza at some point. And then the finish of the match was Leo hitting the final hour. He rips off Angel Garza's trousers, which I don't really see why that is, it's not really a disrespectful move just because Angel does that himself. In fact, he was trying to do that earlier on in the match, but Leo gets ground and pound on him. So he hits the final hour, he rips off the trousers. He doesn't go for the cover, he goes for the final hour again. Garza reverses that, gets his knees up, and then he gets the wing clip and a reverse full Nelson for the submission, and picks up that Cruiserweight title. First Mexican descent NXT Cruiserweight champion, and I just think that that's really cool. He's got quite a cool little personality about the scenes. I mean, he likes his mind games. I always like the people that are nice and fast. He's got a bit of a showboating side to him, and I like that. So I really can't complain. I like that they've been putting these NXT Cruiserweight title matches on just regular NXT TV. Makes it feel important. I was never really a fan of 205 Live, I just didn't have time to watch it. And everyone really used to talk about how sort of poor it was at the beginning, and then, it was just sort of, I never found a good time to jump onto it, but since it's been here in the NXT universe, I'm such a fan of it. I really enjoyed Leo versus Gulak and the subsequent matches that Leo's had Was it a bit soon for him to lose it? Yeah, but it also gives this episode a little bit of weight and lets the sort of lineage of the NXT Cruiserweight title rather than just the Cruiserweight Championship. It's the NXT iteration of it is already gaining some history and just letting it get a little bit of weight to it, so I really appreciated that. Yeah, so I'd probably give that a solid 5 out of 6, to be honest. I thought that it was just a great way to start off the show. I'm not particularly familiar with either of these guys, so most of the things that they do impress me, so a match like this is just like, okay, fine. Even though it's just a showcase of the sort of moves that they can do, it's like, okay, that was effective, and it was a great way to start off the show. It's almost hard pitting it against the Moxley thing, because I'm really enjoying this main event scene on Dynamite. The fact that Moxley's like going against Jericho now is just really cool to me. I was a big fan of Ambrose when that was his name. I've really enjoyed the Moxley character because it's only the same character but just done slightly less. I mean, I don't know. He's just allowed to use violence now. I don't really see that much difference in the character other than the fact that he's just a little bit more intense and he's allowed to use the violent stuff now. I feel like that he could have been like that if WWE had let him. But yeah, I really enjoyed that and the drama of Willie won't he, but I can't give Dynamite the edge, not with a cracking cruiserweight title match to start off the show. So NXT wins round 1. Back to Dynamite for round 2, we get a short video package with Excalibur talking about the main event between the Bucks and Proud and Powerful, saying that Proud and Powerful don't know what they're asking for, what they've gotten themselves into, because Excalibur has called some of these street matches that the Young Bucks have had and guerrilla warfare matches are their bread and butter. I like the fact that they really play up on the fact that Excalibur knows the Young Bucks has called many of their matches, and they do this fairly often where they'll have a little soundbite from him just explaining something like that, letting us know that street fights are something that they've done a lot of. Then the match that we get next is the Butcher and Blade with the Bunny versus Cody Rhodes and QT Marshall. This was an alright match and they made the right decision because Cody gets a much needed loss here. I don't think that this would have been, if they'd have had Cody go over here, it just wouldn't have been a good idea, to be honest. I don't think, but they didn't do that. Credit to them, they actually had Cody take the pinfall here, and it was a pretty decent match with some back and forth and a couple of nice little bits of character. Cody was suitably pissed off, to be fair, and I thought that was pretty cool. QT thought he was going to start the match, but Cody just sort of comes in and starts hammering away at the Butcher. And then past that, we get, it's sort of just what you'd expect. Marshall gets some nice heat on him by having the Butcher and Blade just sort of beat him up for a bit, but he occasionally makes some nice comebacks. He hits a jawbreaker at one point, a couple of nice enziguris. He gets a crossroads at some point, which I thought was pretty cool. Trying to show off to Cody a little bit. One of those, just, I do like that every now and again someone on the roster will be like, hey Cody, take notice of me. QT got that chance and he was like, yeah, I'm just going to show Cody what I can do and hopefully I can get a little bit ahead in my career or something. I don't know. Spot's just opened up. MJF isn't his mate anymore. He needs a new best friend. Cody, please. But yeah, it's mostly sort of. It's mostly Marshall just getting beaten up on. He's trying to make a comeback, and then Cody tags in and he comes in and he hits uppercuts and drop kicks and a disaster kick and a diving crossbody and I'm just trying to think now. I know it's a bulldog at some point, and an escalada into a cutter, which I thought was pretty cool. Just so we're clear, is an escalada is that just a step up? Is it just Excalibur just being Excalibur and not saying step up? I feel like it might be a different thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's just a step up, then that's fairly cool. Step up cutter, I'm not really sure how I imagine that happening, but whatever. But the Butcher and Blade were fairly impressive in this match, really. They hit a couple of leg drops and knife edge chops, etc., etc. And their finisher, I believe, was a stunner lariat combo, which just sounds pretty cool. Brutal and impactful. Probably looks pretty cool, so I've got no complaints about that. And them getting a much needed debut and win here against Cody, just furthering that cause of we are here to cut the head off the snake. Just it would have really, they'd have fizzled out straight away if Cody had got the win here, but I thought Excalibur did a good job with the play-by-play. I think that JR even offered a move at one point. I think there was a nasty kick to the spine of Marshall at one point, and JR actually pointed that out. So I was actually pretty happy Tony again was back this week. And I can't say that I really noticed anything that he said, but I never really have a problem with Tony. He actually seemed fairly charming. I like that he likes Excalibur, and he sort of has a nice little relationship with JR as well, where they seem like they're actually genuinely friends, which they probably are. So yeah, this one was a solid 4 out of 6. Just achieved what they set out to do. Over on NXT, we get 2 short video packages and a short match that I'll sort of lump together for this round. Shayna talks about the fact that she's the most dominant champion in NXT history, and her dad says that you can tell a lot about a person by the car that they drive, and she shows us her nice classic Mustang that she calls a reliable muscle car. She talks about the fact that people are throwing this word momentum about when they're talking about Rhea Ripley, and she lists off all of the people that she's beaten and how, and I just thought it was really cool. She said that Rhea's just going to tap, snap or nap the same as everyone else, and I've never got any complaints about Shayna Baszler. I really enjoy her character as just this bully character, that she's just the high school bully. She is the Nelson Muntz of NXT, and I think that she plays that role really well, and I think she's about to not play that role anymore. This time next week, I think I'll be trying to think of some sort of title for the episode, and I'll be like, oh, I wish I could just put Shayna loses the title, but I'm not a spoilery sort of person, so I don't do that sort of thing. We get a Finn Balor video package, and he's sort of offended that Regal, of all people, would put him in a triple threat after everything that he's done for NXT. He says that Keith Lee is one of those people, someone who's been relevant for about 3 weeks. Tomasso Ciampa, who calls the title he made famous Goldie. He's like, let me tell you something about Gold. I was the first ever Universal Champion. And I just thought that was really cool. I think the fact that he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder, the fact that the red carpet wasn't necessarily rolled out for him, and it's not just been gifted an NXT title match, which he probably feels like he deserves after all of the time he spent carrying NXT on his back, in his eyes. And I just think that that's absolutely awesome. I'm really enjoying Finn Balor, probably for the first time in his career that I've watched. I've not ever really been a massive Finn fan. I never really watched NXT on a regular basis before a few years ago, or maybe last year, I think. Whenever the North American Championship came in, that's sort of when I started watching on a more regular basis, just because that ladder match was like amazing, and probably one of my top 5 matches of all time. And then, but yeah, I haven't watched Finn loads. I think I saw his match with Joe. I definitely saw the one where he came out with the chainsaw. I know that I watched that entrance and I was like, whoa. So that was like the one thing when he come up to the main roster that I was like, oh, this guy, the guy who came out with the chainsaw, yeah. And then obviously from then on it never really picked up. But the fact that he's got this character that he can put across in such a short time, I think is a real testament to how talented he must be, and also the fact that the creative in NXT is just great. And then it is a really short match between Raul Mendoza and Cameron Grimes to get back because Raul got attacked by Cameron Grimes last week. He gets a springboard tornado, he takes flight, Grimes slams him, Kushida comes out, and then Mendoza gets a Rana for the win. And I was just like, okay, Cameron Grimes really can't get any momentum, can he? Like, I don't know, it's weird. It's just like he starts and then they slam the brakes on, and then he starts and they slam the brakes on. Like, to have him lose to Raul Mendoza, I know that it's to like sort of motivate him and make him mad at Kushida so that he can do that rivalry, but why would I think that Grimes is a threat to Kushida, especially after last week and especially after this week? So yeah, I'd definitely say that AEW wins this round. I did enjoy those couple of video packages, but they were really short, and the match was really short. Whereas in the Cody and QT Marshall versus Butcher and Blade was actually an advancement of a story that I'm quite into, just because I'm not a massive fan of Cody either, so I feel like I've got a team that I can like directly root for it. Like, yes, go, get him, take him down. So, yeah, I actually think that was a decent match that Excalibur did well on, so I'm going to give it to AEW, which means that it's one apiece right now. Back to AEW for round 3. I found this a little bit confusing. So Darby comes out and I wasn't particularly sure why. Then we get MJF coming out and he starts talking to someone, but he tells that he's like, last week when Cody talked about my crossroads, I could swear that I saw you laughing. All will be forgiven. You just got to kiss the ring. And he's sort of intimidating him into kissing the canvas because he's got Wardlow there. He's like, do you really want to say no to me right now with Wardlow here? And I'm like, is it Darby? Is it just some nameless jobber that MJF was supposed to face? I was a little bit lost with it, but regardless, whoever it was, he gives them a crossroads, and then he cuts a promo and does what MJF does best, because he is great on the mic. Like, seriously, he is really, really great, and in a couple of years, he's just going to be absolutely flawless. But he talks about that. He says that he admits that Cody is one of the best wrestlers of this generation. He said on the mic he's untouchable other than one person, that person being MJF, and says that he decided to talk about that one person, and he likens it to throwing rocks at a guy with a machine gun, because when MJF opens his mouth, these bullets don't miss, in his own words. He talks about the fact that he doesn't need Cody's money. He's got enough money to last him a lifetime. He just wants him to suffer. And he talks about, he has some really good lines. He says that Cody and his friends talk about the fact that his scarf is fake, but when MJF thinks of the word fake, he thinks of Cody. He says, I think of your dyed yellow hair that looks like a cat pissed on it, and your beaver teeth that looks like I could land a helicopter on it. And I was like, what? And then he does the suffering succotash line, which I've just got to say, when Roman did that, it was all over the place. Oh, everyone was like, oh my god, was this the worst line ever? And like, everyone was just getting on at Roman about it, and MJF says it, and I haven't heard even one person complaining about it, and it's just like, come on, it was a bad line. I don't care whether it's like a pop culture thing or not. If you're going to say it's a bad line from Roman, and personally I never found it that bad, I can't even really remember it, it was just forgettable, but I remember it because everyone else went on about it so much, and it's just like, okay, you've got to hold it up to the same standards. But he says that he is going to give Cody his match, and he wants it under some stipulations, but he's not going to give them the stipulations in Hunkyville, Texas. He'll do it in Jacksonville. So I was sort of impressed with that. It was nice to see MJF sort of step up and not be a coward, even though he's going to be a coward in the coming weeks, because he's going to hide behind Butcher Blade and the Bunny. But Yeah, I was impressed that he actually stepped up and said that he could have the match. I hope that they don't do it too soon. It would actually be alright if they just let it build to Revolution and have some sort of... MJF just needs to avoid Cody for the next couple of weeks now. Give him his stipulation and then just avoid him until the time, so that by the time it comes on to the pay-per-view, we might actually really want to see Cody just kick his ass. I think that they're doing an alright job. I will say that since MJF turned on Cody, I'm sort of a little bit more interested in Cody. I feel like the character, he's got a little bit more relatable. Some guy whose best friend's just turned on him. He's got a reason to have a chip on his shoulder, especially since he can no longer go for the title. So, an effective promo, MJF doing what he does best, and I can't complain about that because I don't really get to see what he does in the ring, so I just appreciate him getting some mic time. On NXT, we get a short promo from Mia Yim where she says that DK put her in the hospital, and tonight she's gonna do the same to her. Essentially, she says it's gone beyond revenge. It's the fact that she cost her history, and tonight she's gonna make her suffer and cause her so much pain that she'll be the one going home in an ambulance tonight. Who would have thought it? The whole Dakota Kai thing has completely turned me round on Mia Yim. Her match with Io Shirai was really impressive, and then I was sort of looking forward to seeing her in War Games, and then the fact that she got attacked and it ended up being Dakota Kai, and I've actually completely turned around on her, and now I'm like, yeah, get her, Mia, get her. And then we get a sort of Worlds Collide preview. We get Travis Banks versus Jackson Riker. How great is it that I genuinely almost forgot his name? Yeah, I really wasn't too bothered about this one. It wasn't much of a match. We sort of just get Travis Banks coming out of it all aggressive, starting hitting strikes. He tries to go for a tope, which Jackson Riker avoids. Banks hits a chop, a drop kick, and a cannonball in the corner. But then Riker turns it around, he gets a double axe handle and knee to the face. Banks goes up to the top rope, hits a drop kick, Riker gets right back up, so Banks hits a slice of heaven. So, it's hard to decide. I really enjoyed the Mia Yim promo, but I really didn't enjoy the Banks Riker match. I just thought it was sort of pointless. If you're going to show off the NXT UK talent, bring over one of the actual UK guys. Like, I don't know. I get it. Nah, I'm being a knobhead there. I will admit that. Banks is big from the UK scene and stuff. I guess it's just... I never really was a fan of him. When there was a little time when I watched NXT UK on the regular, and they didn't really use him that much, and he just sort of seemed like kind of similar to Finn Balor, and I never invested in him then. And then this is Jackson Riker as well. Like, yeah, I think I could have enjoyed it if Banks had been against someone better, but I'm really not that interested in Jackson Riker because they haven't done that much with him, and there wasn't that much in the match. So, weighing it up against the MJF thing that actually progresses the MJF Cody storyline and allows us a pretty good, entertaining promo, I'd say AEW has to take the edge there, so they get a 2-1 lead. Over to AEW for round 4. Completely went blank there. We get my favourite part of Dynamite each week now. It's the Dark Order recruitment ad again. I don't really know how these work now, because we're starting to see stuff that we shouldn't really see, like the minions swarming all of them last week, and then this one was really, really cool. It's a tag team sitting in a hotel room, and the Dark Order sort of voiceover guys on the TV. He's like, thank you for choosing us as your hotel partners, and it's like just going through all that sort of stuff, just like a public service announcement sort of thing. And then the guy on the screen starts talking to one of the tag team members. He's like, aren't you sick of being... Man, a burp just trying to force its way out at the minute. Stupid Pepsi. Uh, He's like, aren't you sick of being a jobber? Aren't you tired of losing? Stop losing. Join the Dark Order. And then after he starts talking, then he's like, how do I even do that or whatever? And his partner asks who he's talking to, so obviously couldn't see the subliminal messaging or the hip. How God knows how they're doing it, but it's awesome. I don't really care. It's all sort of conspiratorial and 1984-esque with the TV talking to him and convincing him to do things. I just think it's really cool. I don't really know how the Dark Order operates. I do know that jointhedarkorder.com is a real site. Glenn told me that. I'm sort of scared to sign up. It's got a submission form. I wanted to go on and apply, but God knows what's going to happen. Even though I know that nothing bad is going to happen, it's still like, no, I don't think I'm going to. I'm just going to wait and see, and hopefully Glenn will do it. And then as long as he doesn't get murdered or like swarmed by minions on his way to the shopping centre or something, then maybe I'll do the application. Then we get Big Swole versus Emi Sakura, sorry, and it was a decent match, but there really wasn't too much to it. I enjoyed seeing Big Swole make a debut. She did quite a cool few little things. She got a back fist, and she was going for just a few little different bits and bobs. Emi Sakura was really working heel in this match. She was getting a hair whip. When she got the hair whip, JR was like in the most sarcastic voice possible, like, oh no, not the hair whip. And I was like, shut up, JR. He was really doing my head in this episode again. I appreciated him sort of calling that move in the Cody match, and I was like, oh, JR, are you getting a little bit better? And then he just doubles down on how much of a dick he can be, but let's not get too much into that. Emmy was like raking the back quite a bit, digging her nails in, raking it. She got a Ramiro special at one point. She got a tiger backbreaker. She draped Big Swole on the ropes and delivered like a knee to the back of the neck, and a twisting Vader bomb. And then Big Swole sort of hit a couple of lariats. She was hitting chops and a few strikes. She hit Emmy's head off the turnbuckle at one point, and then she got the win with her ripcord elbow strike that she calls Dirty Dancing. And I was like, okay, cool. She picks up a win on her debut. Nice to see someone new in the women's division. I know we've seen her before, but now she's an official part. She can actually start getting a bit of a story, become a contender, get up in the rankings. And it was a decent decision to put her against Emi Sakura, because she seems to be a fairly annoying heel character. I've not really backed her up against anyone. I wanted Riho to win when she was facing her, and I wanted Big Swole to win here. So yeah, I think they did a good job with it. Over on NXT, it's Mia Yim versus Dakota Kai, unfortunately for Big Swole, because she's going to lose this round, let's face it. This was a really awesome segment. I like that Mia Yim is just completely pissed off, and after payback, revenge, she's just looking to get equal, to injure Dakota Kai, and I just think that she shows a really nice edge in this match. She hits a drop kick almost immediately. She's going after DK as hard as she can. Nigel at one point called her the HRIC, and I was like, what? And then he called her the hood rat in charge, and it actually made me laugh out loud. I was like, fair enough. He's such a good character, because he somehow manages to be like knowledgeable and intelligent and insightful, but also is just like a complete heel. Like, he's just he's somehow completely charming as a heel, but he's just also sort of just nasty at points, which is just really entertaining. He's like a sort of a dastardly villain. I don't know, it's like sort of low level, because he's not a full-on dickhead. He's just like, oh yeah, I like this person, so I'll back them up. Even though it is usually the heel that he backs up. But we get a couple of cool things in this match, with Mia Yim getting the tarantula. Dakota Kai hits just a series of kicks, really, with she gets an axe kick and she gets some quad kicks to the temple. Mia Yim goes for the code blue at some point, but Dakota Kai blocks it, but Mia Yim gets it anyway, which I thought was pretty cool. Shows that Dakota Kai's got ring smarts, but Mia Yim was just like a bit too powerful, got a bit too much aggression there. At one point, Dakota goes for a kick and Mia reverses with a German suplex. The finish, however, I was a little bit confused with the finish because it saw Dakota. She retrieves the knee brace, like Tegan's knee brace, and then I assume the ref probably had to get rid of that. Dakota sort of removes the turnbuckle and slams Mia's face into it. Removes the padding to the turnbuckle, slams Mia's face into it. And I just wasn't sure why it wasn't a DQ. I didn't really hear anything from the commentary that was like, oh, the ref didn't see that, so I wasn't really sure why it wasn't a disqualification. Either way, Dakota got the win. Oh, she actually got a sit-out powerbomb at one point too, which I'm always a fan of a sit-out powerbomb, and I like that Dakota's showing some real aggression now that she's turned, and that she's a horrible person now. And it really shows with her offense, even though she's still doing more or less the same things with just a variety of kicks. She's doing it in a more, even I can tell that she's doing it in a more aggressive way, that just the way Morrow describes it, it's obvious that she's being more aggressive, and a sit-out powerbomb isn't something that I don't think I've seen her do it before, and I'm always a fan of it. But Dakota picks up the win. Oh, while I'm thinking about it, actually, Mia throws Dakota into the steel steps at one point and hits a cannonball. But yeah, Dakota picks up the win here, but it's Mia Yim who gets the last laugh because they brawl on the outside. They go to the technical area because Dakota Kai is trying to run away, but Mia throws her off some sort of platform that they're on, and Dakota goes through 2 tables. I did later learn that Dakota has had to have 8 staples from that, because she was supposed to go through 2 tables, only went through 1, and apparently hit her head on the second one. So yeah, I'm sorry for people who can actually see, because that sounds like it was probably quite nasty and a little bit worrying. I think I'd have been like, oh, I hope she's okay after that. But 8 staples later, she's still going to be on the California loop coming up, so that's good. I'm really glad that she wasn't badly injured from that, because it was a big spot that was actually really cool. Made Mia look like she was just, it makes her look like she's sort of come a little bit unhinged, like just she's so angry at Dakota for costing her the history and just doing everything that she's done, calling her a hood rat. And I really sort of want to, I kind of hope, I'd like to see, like, next week, it'd be pretty cool if she, like, give Nigel a slap or something, just to show that she sort of watches the matches back and studies where she went wrong. It'd be pretty cool if she was like, hey, don't you call me a hood rat, Nigel. It's like, when it's bad enough when it comes from Dakota, but you're a commentary member. Yeah, I think that she looked really cool. It's nice to see Dakota get her first little bit of comeuppance, and I definitely think that this one goes over the Big Swole match. So they're now 2 apiece. Round 5. It's on Dynamite. We've got Kenny Omega and Hangman Page versus Kip Sabian and Shawn Spears. I like this one because it actually gives a little bit of something to Shawn Spears. I just haven't really been invested in him that much since he came. I have liked Kip Sabian from what I've sort of seen, and he seems to have come into his own with this Penelope Ford thing as well. So as a faction, Kip, Shawn, Tully and Penelope could actually be quite a cool little team. I really like that Shawn let Kip start this match so he could observe and see whether he was a suitable partner, and boy did we get some cool spots in this match. I really can't give you a better example of someone that they've turned me round on more than Hangman. I really wasn't interested the first few months, especially before the TV debut, but this storyline of him wanting to leave the Elite and getting a bit of an edge to him, I'm actually really enjoying it. So we get a running backbreaker from Kenny at one point. We get a drop kick from Adam Page, which he then uses the momentum from the drop kick. He does the dropkick into a moonsault, basically, and I was like, that is so cool. We get a twisting brain buster by Kip Sabian. We get a double Kataru Crusher from Kenny. Penelope Ford keeps injecting herself. She grabs Hangman's boot at one point. She also hits a Hurricanrana at one point, which was really cool. Kip hits a fisherman's suplex, which they point out that Tully actually used to use. Tully gets brought out at one point by Joey Janela because he's trying to carry on his feud with Shawn Spears, and they go off and brawl. We do get a springboard backstabber from Shawn Spears at one point, which I thought was pretty cool. But for the most part, it was a showcase here for Kip Sabian and to keep this feud going between Joey Janela and Shawn Spears. I actually thought that they did it really well, where Kip was trying to prove himself to Tully and Shawn, but at the same time they've got stuff going on and they're maybe not actually paying him the full attention that he deserves. I don't know whether he will stick with them or whether he might actually join but not get along with Shawn. It'll be like a bit of a tenuous relationship that they've got. But I thought this was all really, really cool. So once Janela's brought Tully out, him and Shawn just brawl off at the top of the ramp, and Kenny hits a Snapdragon suplex and a V-trigger on Kip Sabian, but Hangman tags himself in. He hits the buckshot lariat, and he picks up the win for their team. I really, really like that. Hangman is just really proving to be someone that I'm quite a fan of. His moveset's really cool. I like that he's got like the old school moves, like the big boot and the Alabama slam and the sidewalk slam, that type of thing. But then he also has these big high flying moves like the Asai moonsault and the buckshot lariat, and I'm really turning around on him. And that drop kick moonsault sounds like, again, it's just one of those moments where I'm like, damn, I wish my eyes could just grow back so I could rewind it and watch that, because it just sounds... I really like that sort of thing where someone turns one move into another or uses their opponent for momentum to do something else, and I'm becoming quite a big fan of the way that they do tag team matches in AEW. I will admit that I probably like it just that little bit more than the way they do it in WWE, but that's only because, for the most part, the one criticism I do have of NXT is that they're not really using the tag titles at the minute. There's not a tag team title feud going on, mainly because it was all wrapped up in the War Games thing, but hopefully O'Reilly and Fish, or O'Reilly and Strong if Fish is injured, hopefully they'll get some sort of feud. But for now, when it comes to tag team wrestling, I will give it to Dynamite. It achieves what it sets out to do, and it does it in a way that I'm really interested in. And Hangman just tagging himself in, stealing the win off Kenny was great, because it's sort of a double-edged sword. It's like he picks up the win and he shows that he's not just gonna sit by and let Kenny take the win, and sort of plays on the fact that he's left the Elite and he's out on his own. He's not looking out for the greater Elite cause where he might have let Kenny pick up the win. He's like, no, the spotlight's mine. And I really want him to join the Dark Order. I think that I'm still of that mindset that he needs some big turn, because where do you go from here? He starts picking up a couple of wins and gets some momentum behind him, and the story's gone. Whereas if he leaves the Elite like he has, and then he keeps losing, or he has to win in cheap ways that aren't necessarily cheating but aren't the best sportsmanly conduct, when he eventually joins the Dark Order because he can't find a way to win, it'd be such a big turn, and you'd be like, oh no, don't go evil. And I just think that would be big for the Dark Order, because they'll have picked up one of the main stars of Dynamite. And I just thought that this was a really, really effective match. I enjoyed the hell out of it. For the most part, I started enjoying most of Kenny's matches and Hangman's matches. So even though I really didn't care about Shawn Spears, it was nice to see Kip Sabian getting a bit of spotlight. Nice to see Joey Janela doing a bit of something pretty cool, that he's tying up Tully Blanchard. And then the cool spots from the faces was just a highlight of this match. I mean, there's really no competition here. So we go over to NXT, and it's Breezango versus the Bollywood Boys. There's just no competition here. For a starter, I didn't even really like the match. Never mind the fact that the Omega and Hangman match was really great. It's just, actually, let's just get to the part of this that I did like. They come out, they've got doctor gimmicks, because Breezango have constantly got different gimmicks now. Their gimmick is that they have a different gimmick every time. And they come out as sexy doctors or whatever. And Beth has one of her little lines, and she's like, "Oh, it's fully licensed professionals. They offered me a full body anatomy lesson for completely free," which is really sweet of them, because I only asked for a flu jab. And I absolutely love this Beth Phoenix is like sort of hot under the collar for Tyler Breeze and Fandango thing, but because she does it in such an innocent way where like Breeze and Fandango are coming on to her, but she just completely doesn't get it, and she's so innocent with it, and it's just brilliant. It really endears me to her. I find it really funny. Again, it made me laugh out loud, as did Nigel saying that the Bollywood Boys had got pink budgie smugglers on. But other than that, this was just what you would come to expect from a Breezango match. Tyler Breeze is in at first. He hits a forearm smash and a backcracker, but other than that, he gets beat down quite a lot. We get the Bollywood blast from the Bollywood Boys. That only gets like a 2 count. And then Breeze gets worked over. He tags in Fandango. Fandango comes in, hits like a boo, an avalanche Falcon Arrow, followed by another Falcon Arrow. I thought that was cool, at least. The top rope Falcon Arrow followed by the regular one. He got a powerbomb on the apron and did his leg drop finisher. So yeah, it just... It's sort of... not even sort of. It does really frustrate me, because I like Tyler Breeze, and I really like Fandango. And they did that PC video where they had him be Johnny Curtis, and he talked about the fact that he was leaving comedy wrestling behind and he wanted to start something new, and they just completely dropped that, put him back with Tyler Breeze and had them be a comedy act again. And as much as I love the Beth Phoenix comedy stuff, I just want the... I've got to remember that after a while it cuts me off. After 46 minutes of recording, it just cuts me off. But yeah, I was saying that I just really want to see them have a takeover level match where we can see what they do and how good they can be, because I know both of those wrestlers can be really great, and it's just a shame that Tyler Breeze is the absolute jobber of that team, and his role is to get the heat up so that when he gets a hot tag to Fandango, which in this match it was barely even a warm tag. So yeah, unfortunately for these two, it wasn't a great match, and I wasn't really that interested, and it was up against a really, really entertaining tag team match with some really nice spots in there. So AEW picks up the win again there. We're going 3-2. Round 6, this is going to be a long one for Dynamite. We get a promo from Brandy where she says, "Has Riho got so small that you can't even see her? Because she's not been around for weeks to defend that title. Take a shot every time Britt Baker mentions her boyfriend. You'll be on your back looking up at the lights faster than you can blink." She says that the family is almost complete. It was an actually really nice promo from her. The first one that I've seen that I actually sort of enjoyed, she was laying it on thick with the bitchiness and the sort of the little vibe that she's going for, and I thought it was pretty cool. Correct me if I'm wrong, I imagine that Brandy's quite facial. Like, when I imagine her promos, I really imagine the facial expression, like how much she'd be laying it on thick with the nasty little sneering look. But I could be completely wrong. She might be doing a little fake smile or something. Who knows? Anyway, next up is Luchasaurus and Sammy Guevara. And this match, honestly, is just a nothing to me, because Jericho comes out, he kicks Tony Schiavone and Excalibur off commentary, and then him and JR do the commentary for this match. And the only thing that I've got to say is JR doesn't tell an underdog story with Marco Stunt. He makes jokes about him beating up Jericho's knees even when he's vertical, and yeah, I really don't like the way that he handles Marco Stunt. He mentioned Rio size again this week. Oh, these women looking for the chance to face all 98 pounds of our champion. And then he just did the same thing with Marco Stunt. There was a couple of different things that he said that I was just so annoyed by. But other than that, there really wasn't much to this match. Luchasaurus beat Sammy in the end, and then the Inner Circle brawled, and in the melee, Jungle Boy unofficially pinned Jericho, who was quick to start screaming that doesn't count. It really gets a 2/6 from me. I understand why they feel like it's entertaining, and I'm sure sighted people were more than happy to watch this and just enjoy the Jericho JR banter, but I was like, no, I like Luchasaurus, I like Sammy Guevara, I want to see this match, and I can't watch it because you're putting shitty commentary. It's like, damn. I sometimes wish that I'd never sort of tried to get in touch with them, because these days with WWE, when they do stuff like that, I can at least pretend like they're ignorant of me. With AEW, I'm like, there's blind people out there, even though I don't expect them to actually think of me every time. It's just like, when stuff like that happens, it's like, almost feels like you're just trying to wind me up. But yeah, I'm not going to stick around on this. Over on NXT, we get a quick interview with Rhea Ripley where she talks about the fact that she always gets nervous, but you just gotta do what you gotta do. She says she started training at 16, and just 3 years later, at 19, she was given the chance of a lifetime. She took part in the Mae Young Classic, and she went on to become the first ever NXT UK Women's Champion, and now all that's left is to face Shayna Baszler. And I can't wait. The story between these two has been fantastic. Shayna getting all defensive and lashing out and sort of being scared of Rhea, but not in a sort of cowardly way. She's just properly lashing out, and she's like a cornered animal, whereas in Rhea is the hunter at the minute, and she's coming for her, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I can't wait for their match last week, and I do feel like Rhea should and will win. The match that we get is Kaden Carter versus Bianca Belair, and honestly, it was an enjoyable match. There wasn't a whole lot of impactful moves, but it was sort of what you'd expect. You get the luchador background of Kaden Carter. She's going around hitting cartwheel escapes and kicks and trying to go for tornado DDTs and handsprings, but every time Bianca just blocks her. She gets a pair of backbreakers at some point. There's a move that I was a little bit disappointed when Kaden went for a sunset flip, but Bianca blocked it, deadlifts her, and quote-unquote spikes her on the mat. And I was like, was it a powerbomb? Was it some sort of driver? I just really wasn't sure. So I was a little bit disappointed there, but I really like the bit where Carter goes for a handspring back elbow, but Bianca blocks, dodges, hits a spear. I thought that was really cool, and then Bianca ended up picking up the KOD win, and I really did enjoy it. It's amazing, really, because when they don't let Bianca speak, I forget how annoying she is when she does, so I actually end up start marking for her, and I really like that she's the proper powerhouse of the women's division at the minute. They always have Beth talk about her strength. Nigel's pointed out in this match that she might rival Beth's strength, and Beth was like, oh yeah, definitely, and told Kaden Carter that she needs to stick to the luchador style, which, again, like I said, she very much did. She was going for the springboards and the cartwheels and the handsprings and all that sort of stuff, but she never really got anything too amazing in. The most that I really got is like a jawbreaker. But yeah, it was a Bianca Belair non-squash match, and I do enjoy the way they've been doing these on NXT recently. They did the same sort of thing with the Shayna and Xia Li last week, so I just think it's a really effective way of keeping the momentum going for the women that aren't in the title feud. So yeah, this definitely wins for me over the Luchasaurus Sammy Guevara match, even though I'm sure that if I could have seen that, I probably would have enjoyed that way more. But that's AEW's fault, so now it's 3 apiece. Round 7, it's time for the main event. So on Dynamite, that main event is a Texas street fight between Proud and Powerful and the Young Bucks. And by this point, I was like, come on then, show me what you've got, because they just kept going on about it all through the night, how crazy it was going to be and how the street fight aspect is something that the Young Bucks are really familiar with. And honestly, I just really enjoyed this match. I can't complain about it at all. The commentary did a fairly good job. There was only really one point where they dropped a call and didn't call a big spot. I wasn't sure what happened there, but other than that, this was a true video game match. It all broke down right at the beginning. Proud and Powerful jumping the Young Bucks as they're making their entrance, along with Sammy Guevara. Brandon Cutler comes out at one point and tries to sort of even the odds, but he gets beat up as well. Santana gets thrown off the stage, I think, and then there was just all sorts of back and forth action here with them. They hit an Indie Taker on Sammy at the top, which Excalibur did say is a double spike pile driver, so thanks to Excalibur for that. And then there's just all sorts of stuff. You get the Northern Lights locomotion suplexes from Matt, but obviously I assume they were on the outside because I'm not really sure how much they were in the ring this sort of time around. We get a 450, we get roundhouse kicks, more bang for your buck, we get that powerbomb enziguri combination, we get a cannonball sent on that sends Santana and one of the Bucks through the table. We get trash can shots that cause cuts because the trash cans got so dented. The Proud and Powerful are wandering around with the slapjack. There's just all sorts of stuff going on in this match. It gets a little bit overbooked towards the end. Hager comes out and he gets involved. The ref gets taken out, so Aubrey Edwards has to come out. And I quite like Aubrey Edwards, really. I do stick by the fact that Dynamite and AEW sort of mentioning the names of the referees has actually really helped get me invested into them. Knowing Rick Knox has called so many Young Bucks matches, and Bryce Remsburg has been popping up quite a bit, and obviously he's the one that got put through a table by Nyla Rose, so he was easily injured this time around. It all just got a little bit crazy, and it was a little bit harder to keep up with, especially with the notes, but I did get sort of towards the finish. We get more bang for your buck, but there's no ref there, so Aubrey has to come out, but the crowd counts to 7 before she gets there, and she counts the 1, 2, and the kick out, so Excalibur puts over that they got the pin for 9 seconds, and I thought that was pretty cool. They did a street sweeper to Matt on the trash can, and he kicked out. I was like, bloody hell. And then they tried for the street sweeper on the chairs, but the Bucks come back with super kicks and end up hitting the Meltzer driver on the chairs. And I was just like, okay, fair enough. I'm not going to argue with you anymore. This is just one of those matches that I really, really enjoyed, and I didn't enjoy the Bucks the first few matches. When they did that Escalara de la Muerte, I was just like, no, I didn't enjoy that at all. I couldn't keep up with it. I didn't know what was going on. But I feel like I've got a little bit more of a grasp of what these two teams are like. At one point, Ortiz hits a spine buster, and Santana goes for the assisted senton, and I really, really like the tag team style in AEW. I know I've said that earlier this episode, but this is just another example of, I really like how the Young Bucks operate with their double team maneuvers. They've got so many of them, and most of their matches just seem like they sort of break down into just spot fest, but I've got no problem with that. I do feel like they still tell stories. At the end of the day, they still got battered with like the slapjack and put through tables, and the Inner Circle have got all their little dastardly tricks that they're pulling, and they've got to contend with that. So I just think that they're doing a really good job at building this Inner Circle elite feud. I think this was a great main event, and I just have no complaints about it really at all. There was that one spot that they didn't call, but other than that, the commentary did a good job. Never really felt like I missed anything, and I gave it a solid 5 out of 6. Over on NXT, it's that number 1 contenders NXT championship match between Tomasso Ciampa, Finn Balor and Keith Lee. And this one was typical triple threat action, with each man trying something only to get thwarted by the third man. Back and forth, with Ciampa going after Keith Lee and Balor rolling him up, then Ciampa going after Balor and Keith Lee doing something, and just etc. It was a very enjoyable match. At one point Keith Lee got a slingshot cross body block. He was hitting those avalanche splashes in the corner. He hit a moonsault that he missed at some point, but then just hit a jackhammer. At one point he got both men in an electric chair. I'm not particularly sure what happened from there, but I know that I think he had both men up in the electric chair, but it was a little bit confusing. Ciampa hit a doubles willow bell at some point on them. Balor got a couple of double foot stomps and a tope con hero, and I was quite surprised that he didn't actually hit the 1916 in this, and there didn't seem to be many like basement drop kicks or anything, so I was a little bit disappointed in that, because I love those basement drop kicks. He's getting pounced and bealed by Keith Lee every 2 seconds. Ciampa really showed off his in-ring smarts and his strength in this match. At one point he hit an air raid crash on Finn Balor, using Balor as a weapon on Keith Lee, so doing the air raid crash onto Keith Lee. He also did an air raid crash to Keith Lee, which was pretty cool. At one point Keith Lee got a grizzly magnum and tried for the splash, but Ciampa got his knees up. I think that the finish was actually really cool. So Keith Lee gets the spirit bomb, but Balor steals the victory by getting the coup de grace. The coup de grace. Sorry, it's because I have to write it down, and my phone's like coup de grace, and I'm like, it's the coup de grace. But then it happens all the time actually, because even though I know that it's Dijakovic, I'll sometimes say Dijakovic because that's what it says when I'm listening to my talk back. But I really enjoyed this match. I just thought that Keith Lee seemed like he was on a roll. I really like his power. He's hitting monstrous right hands and just throwing himself all over the place, throwing everyone else around the ring. Ciampa was just trying to win here and there. Had some really nice spots, really seemed like he was focused on Goldie, but Finn Balor was just there as this third party that was sneaking in, rolling him up, hitting a move here, hitting a move there, stealing the momentum here, and then at the end to completely steal that opportunity from Keith Lee was a really brilliant move, and I definitely think that they made the right decision, even though all three of these men could really have done with it, because they could all three do with that a big moment like that. Keith Lee especially would have been really cool to see him face Adam Cole, even if he hadn't won, just because it would have been the biggest thing that he's done in NXT so far. And other than that, unless he's going to team up with Dijakovic, I don't really know where they're going with him from here. But either way, he could have done with it, but they did it in a way that it put him over, but Finn gets to carry on his momentum. He, out of all of them, was the one that couldn't afford the loss. I'm glad he didn't get pinned. I'm glad that Keith Lee didn't win by pinning Ciampa, so that Balor it could just be like, oh, I didn't get pinned. I really like that he just got the win, and now he's going to face Adam Cole. For me, it's actually a hard choice with these two, just because I like everyone involved in the NXT main event. I like everyone involved in the street fight over on Dynamite, and it's just really hard because there was just quite a lot of stuff that I liked from both. I really like Finn getting to face Adam Cole, coming back and actually making his future his past, just like he said he would. But then that street fight was so crazy, and it could have gone completely over my head, and I might not have enjoyed it, but I still did. And it's really, really hard to pick between them, especially considering that this is deciding the actual vote. Who would have foreseen that it would come in tied at this place and this would be the tiebreaker? Oh man, what do I do here? So let's just think about it. Cannonball sent on, but then springboard cross body block, and two men in an electric chair. Yeah, but Santana gets thrown off the apron. oh man, Northern Lights locomotion stuff. Yeah, but but Balor getting the coup de grace. Oh, it's genuinely really, really hard. I feel like even though this advances the Finn Balor storyline, and it really, really pains me to say this, but I do think that Dynamite gets the edge here, just because that street fight was a proper video game match. It seems like the sort of match that me and Glenn or me and Just Dan would have had back when I could see and we could play the 2K games. Like, right, now you throw me off the ramp, okay, cool. Now I'm gonna like run down the ramp and hit you with a drop kick, okay, right. Now I'm gonna send you off the apron, hit a senton through the chairs, and like it was just one of those matches where it's like, let's see what we can do to each other, let's see how crazy we can make it. And like I said, it's that video gaming influence. I'm sure that the Bucks have played so many matches on the video games, and I just, you know what I mean, it's just it's crazy, but also the commentary did a really good job, so I have to go with AEW on this one, and they win with a 4-3 lead. That is a close call considering how far ahead they were last week. And it never let it be said that I'm biased towards NXT, because AEW, even though I enjoyed NXT last week, they powered ahead. AEW did, and then this week, even though my gut is screaming at me, oh, you enjoyed the Balor match more, I'm like, no, I do think that I enjoyed the street fight more. So yeah, AEW picks up a 4-3 win this week. Well, if you've got any thoughts on either Dynamite, NXT, or this episode of WITD, you can drop it in the comments section, you know where that is, or you can tweet me at Mason_WITD. And if you don't want to miss any more NXT vs AEW Super Reviews, just click that subscribe button. And if you want to become a member of the WITD community, I'll drop my link to the Discord server that I have in the description below. I'm off, guys. I had fun with this one, and I hope you did too. See you next time. Have a good one.